Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey.
Today we're plunging into something pretty unique that's happening, maybe quietly, in the independent radio world.
Yeah, specifically how one station is taking a really different approach to, what music actually gets on the air.
Exactly. We're talking about Discover U Radio
Hmm.
and this system they've developed called the moral meter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know moral meter sounds maybe a bit intense,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually framed as something, well, quite groundbreaking for how they curate content.
Right. It's not just some gimmick.
So yeah, our deep dive today is all about exploring how this thing actually works, the
Oh.
thinking behind it, and its kind of surprising impact it's having.
And you're right, that phrase moral meter, it could easily make you think, okay, censorship, right? Being overly restrictive.
Sure, that's the first reaction.
But actually looking into it, the sources show it's less about arbitrary rules and much more about, well, intentional curation based on a philosophy.
Intentional curation.
Yeah.
Okay,
So our mission here is really to unpack that. How does it work? Why is it apparently so effective? And what's it mean for, artists and listeners? It's a really interesting case study, I think.
definitely. And to really get it, we probably need to start with this analogy that the station owner, Will, uses. He talks about flies versus bees.
Ah, yes, I saw that.
Yeah, he says something like flies are drawn to decay, to waste, negativity. But bees, they seek out the sweet stuff, the life-giving nectar.
It's quite a visual.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what kind of instantly tells you their goal. Building a hive, not a landfill.
Yeah.
They're deliberately trying to create a certain kind of, well, environment.
And that's such a key distinction, I think. It takes the whole conversation way beyond just filtering songs yes or no.
Right.
This isn't about judging artists just 'cause. It's about consciously choosing to focus on, and I think the quote was, what brings out the best in people, not the emotions that trigger a successless life.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
It is, and it means Discover Your Radio isn't trying to be everything to everyone, not chasing the broadest appeal.
No.
Instead, they're building this community around wanting something positive,
Yeah.
uplifting. And that alone makes them stand out from stations just playing whatever's trending, regardless of the emotional tone.
Okay, so that's the philosophy. How does it actually work in practice?
Yeah.
Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this moral meter.
Right.
The sources say it's pretty straightforward, basically a 1 to 10 scale. Every submission gets rated.
That's the core mechanic, yeah. But here's where it gets specific. There's a hard cutoff.
Okay.
Anything below a 7 out of 10 just doesn't get played, period.
Wow. Okay, so a clear line.
A very clear line. And they're not just vaguely looking for good vibes. They are specifically filtering out something they've actually named. Self-centered depression in music.
Self-centered depression.
That's the target. It's not about a general feeling. It's about identifying and removing that specific element.
That's a strong phrase. What exactly do they mean by that? What kind of stuff falls into that category for them?
Well, from what we gather, self-centered depression refers to music that sort of marinates in personal problems without any sense of moving forward or insight or hope.
Okay, so just dwelling on the negative.
Yeah, songs where maybe the artist is just focused on their own pain, maybe looking for pity, stuck in being a victim, with no real story arc towards resilience or learning something.
Gotcha.
It's not that they're banning difficult topics. Life's messy, art shows that. But the meter seems designed to look at the direction the song takes you.
The emotional journey.
Exactly. Does it leave you feeling kind of drained and hopeless? Or does it, maybe even after talking about struggle, point towards some kind of growth or triumph?
So if that's what they're actively avoiding,
Yeah.
what are they looking for? What scores well? What's the honey in their analogy?
They're explicitly looking for music that builds people up, genuinely. Think about songs focusing on triumph over hard times, finding hope when things look bleak, or celebrating the process of overcoming something big.
Okay.
So like a song just about the pain of addiction might score low, but a song about the really tough journey towards recovery,
Yeah.
the strength you find fighting it, that would likely score much higher.
So it's about the arc again.
Absolutely. Their whole vision seems to be music as a ladder, not a pit. It's about giving the listener energy, inspiration, a feeling of possibility, not dragging them down.
That makes sense.
And that applies to other themes too, like relationships. A song just complaining endlessly about being lonely might not make the cut, but one about the struggle to connect that finds some reconciliation or maybe personal growth, even if it ends, that's more likely to hit that 7 or above.
Right. It's clear how the philosophy drives the mechanics, But what about the actual results? The impact on the station, on the artist submitting? It sounds like this has had some real effects.
Oh, absolutely. The impact seems pretty significant, especially on what they call their positive ecosystem.
Ecosystem, how so?
Well, by filtering out these negativity magnets, they
Hmm.
even use the term emotional vampires, which is pretty blunt.
Wow. Okay.
Artists who maybe just want pity, by filtering them out, they've apparently created this really vibrant, positive space. Listeners aren't tuning in expecting to hear endless complaining. They want that inspiration.
And that affects who submits.
Hugely.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is this sort of natural deterrent effect. It acts like a pre-filter.
A pre-filter.
Yeah, artists who are kind of stuck in that victim mode or whose whole thing is based on eliciting pity, they often just self-select out. They don't even bother submitting because they look at the station's guidelines and realize, okay, this isn't for me.
Huh. So the philosophy itself does some of the filtering work before the music even arrives. That's actually pretty smart.
It's incredibly efficient, that self-selection piece. That's kind of revolutionary for an indie station with limited resources.
I bet.
It means they're not just gatekeeping. They're actively shaping the intent of the music coming in. Saves them so much time. Instead of wading through, hundreds of songs about despair or addiction that just sort of sit there,
Mm-hmm.
they're getting submissions mostly from artists who get it, who understand the assignment, as they say.
Right. Uplift, inspire, triumph.
Exactly. Artists whose music aligns with the station's mission. It apparently transforms their whole intake from just sifting through stuff to actually curating music that fits.
So if you're an artist listening to this, it sounds like they've given a pretty clear guide. Could you maybe give a couple more concrete examples? How would a song structure or theme need to shift to score well? That difference between just stating the problem versus moving towards something better.
Sure. Think about, say, mental health. A song just describing panic attacks, full stop, might score low. But a song that portrays that struggle realistically, but then maybe moves into coping strategies, or finding strength in asking for help, or even just celebrating getting through a tough day. That shows resilience. That's the upward arc they seem to value.
Okay, showing the fight, not just the fall.
Exactly. Or take breakups. A song that just wallows in "I'm so lonely, everything is terrible" might be a 4 or 5 on their scale, but one that acknowledges that real pain, but then shifts focus to lessons learned, personal growth, maybe the hope of finding love again. That's pushing towards an 8 or 9. It's all about that emotional trajectory within the song.
That's really interesting. It almost sounds like this system isn't just filtering music that's already made.
Mm-hmm.
It could actually be influencing how artists create music,
Mm-hmm.
pushing them to think about the impact.
That's one of the most striking things we found in the sources, actually. It seems it is having that effect. Yeah, there are anecdotes of artists who, knowing Discover You Radio's criteria, actually started rethinking their songwriting, asking themselves things like, okay, is this song building up or tearing down? Am I just complaining or am I offering some kind of path forward?
Wow. So it's shifting the creative process itself for some.
It seems so. It helps create this powerful positive feedback loop. The clear philosophy attracts artists who align, which leads to better submissions for their specific goal, which strengthens the station's sound, which draws in listeners who want exactly that.
Which then encourages more artists to submit that kind of work.
Exactly, it feeds itself.
Now, okay, any system this specific, with a clear filter like a 7 out of 10, it's going to get some pushback, right?
Right.
People arguing it's too restrictive, maybe limits art, creates an echo chamber of just happy songs. How does the station handle that criticism?
They seem very, very clear about it, and unapologetic, frankly. They're not pretending to be a platform for absolutely all kinds of artistic expression. That's not their goal. They're aiming to build a specific community for listeners who actively seek out energy, inspiration, upliftment.
So they're not trying to please everyone.
Not at all. They're not trying to cater to listeners who maybe want to wallow or find validation in negativity. It's like the difference between going to a motivational seminar versus a support group for, say, chronic complainers.
That's a good analogy.
Both might have value, but they serve totally different needs. Discover Your Radio knows exactly which need they're serving. They've chosen their lane.
And focusing so tightly on that niche, business-wise, that must build some serious listener loyalty, right? Knowing exactly what you'll get has to be appealing.
Oh, it's a massive advantage. Listeners who find a station that reliably makes them feel better, not worse, or just drained, they tend to become incredibly devoted.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially now, In a world that feels pretty chaotic and often negative, offering that predictable positivity is a huge draw. It makes the connection feel less like just tuning in and more like joining a community. That builds loyalty that's, well, deeper than just liking the songs.
And thinking about independent radio specifically,
Hmm.
they often struggle with just the sheer volume of music coming in, right?
Mm.
Limited staff, tons of submissions. This moral meter seems like it tackles a major quality control headache by getting artists to evaluate themselves first.
That really does seem like the operational game changer here.
Yeah,
Think about it. The fire hose of submissions most stations face. Sifting through all that without a clear filter, it's overwhelming.
totally.
But with this meter, artists are basically asked to pre-screen. If they're honest and their song is, say, a 4 on the upliftment scale, they know not to bother submitting it there.
Cuts down on the noise.
Drastically. It frees up the station's team to focus on the music that does fit, that does resonate with their mission. It makes the whole process way more efficient for everyone. So yeah, when you connect all the dots, you really see that positive feedback loop spinning. Clear philosophy, better aligned submissions, better programming, attracts the target listeners, encourages more aligned artists. It just keeps reinforcing itself.
It's a fascinating model.
Yeah.
What do you think the bigger picture implications are here? Could this influence other independent stations, maybe even other types of content curation beyond radio?
I think it's very possible we'll see more platforms adopting similar frameworks. Maybe not the exact 1 to 10 scale, but this core idea of intentional curation based on the emotional impact you want to have, not just genre or technical quality or what's currently hot.
So curating for feeling, essentially.
Yeah, curating for a desired listener outcome. In today's super crowded media world, defining exactly what you stand for and just as importantly, what you don't stand for is a really smart way to position yourself.
Stand out from the noise.
Exactly. It's a way to build a dedicated audience by being specific.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think other platforms, maybe streaming playlists, niche YouTube channels could definitely learn from that. It's brilliant positioning.
It really does boil down to that clear statement they seem to be making. We're the honey, not the garbage.
Yep.
And it looks like artists and listeners are hearing that message loud and clear and choosing accordingly.
Precisely. It shows the power, really, in any field, whether it's media or, I don't know, even managing your own life, of just clearly defining what you stand for, what you want to cultivate, and what you're just not going to accept in your space.
A powerful idea. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Discover You Radio's moral meter.
And maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. What if you applied a personal moral meter to the content you choose to consume, or maybe even the things you create? How might defining that influence your life, your work? What kinds of hives, what kind of positive spaces are you trying to build or find?